Hello everyone. Today is Tuesday, 31st of May 2022. Welcome to the 5th edition of Nigeria Today News. Today, our focus will be on COVID-19, but before we start, let's look at some stories from around the world. Fumi, over to you.
A third of the world's population has yet to receive a single dose of COVID-19 vaccine, including a shocking 83% of all Africans, said the head of the World Health Organization, WHO, on Wednesday, 30th March 2022. The United States of America replaced China as the country with the highest coronavirus cases on 26th March 2020, as the coronavirus reaches more than 170 countries and the WHO declares nCoV as a global pandemic. Pharmaceutical technology lists the top 10 countries affected by COVID-19 by the number of cases.
Thank you very much, Fumi. Now, the full details. Since the epidemic began, the Chinese government has always insisted on dynamic zero elimination. Europe and the United States have begun to give up isolation and control and have begun to open up even tourism. What is the world experiencing today since the outbreak began? Let's take a look at it. As of April 19, 2022, the countries with the highest share of COVID-19 cases worldwide include the United States, India, and Brazil, with the United States accounting for around 16% of cases worldwide. This statistics shows the distribution of COVID-19 cases worldwide as of April 19, 2022. As from April 25, 2022, the number of COVID-19 cases worldwide had reached almost 510 million. In addition, the number of deaths from COVID-19 was around 6.2 million. The US government's overall response to the pandemic has been criticized, and state governments have also come under fire for enforcing rules that were not tough enough and lifting restrictions too early. However, the country's vaccination rollout has so far been a success, with the US one of the countries with the highest number of vaccinations administered worldwide. Nevertheless, experts continue to warn against complacency, stress the importance of following guidelines and remaining vigilant to avoid another rise in new cases. This is particularly important considering the increasing number of cases caused by the new COVID-19 variant that can spread more easily and cause more severe illness. Italy's coronavirus cases continues to be severe, making it the most affected in Europe as well as outside Asia. Italy has witnessed the highest number of deaths due to COVID-19 in the world. Travel to Italy and Italians traveling to other countries during the outbreak has been traced to have caused COVID-19 spread. China, including Hong Kong and Macau, was the fourth worst affected country by the novel coronavirus outbreak at that time. Officially named COVID-19 by the World Health Organization, WHO. China witnessed more than 3,000 deaths, approximately 74% of the global coronavirus cases as of 9th of March, which quickly came down to 58 by 13th of March and to 40% by 18th of March as the number of cases in the rest of the world surged and Europe became the new epicenter. Within a week, coronavirus cases in the rest of the world belated China's by the end of March. Chinese coronavirus cases accounted for just 10% of the global cases. Hubei is the most affected province within China, and Wuhan, the capital city of Hubei, is the city affected worst by the coronavirus. Hubei has witnessed more than 67,000 coronavirus cases and continues to report deaths, although at a slower rate than before. The number of cases in China, however, has been on the decline due to the rapid control measures and responses by the Chinese government. Coronavirus cases in Germany, which borders France and Switzerland, have crossed 84,700, overtaking cases in China. The coronavirus mortality rate in Germany is, however, comparatively lesser at 1.3%, with more than 1,100 deaths reported. German Finance Minister Thomas Schäfer committed suicide, suspected because of worries over the state of the country's economic situation due to COVID-19. France, the fourth most affected European nation by the coronavirus, has overtaken South Korea in the number of COVID-19 cases. COVID-19 cases in France have reached close to 60,000, while the death toll reached closer to 5,500. The French government has banned public gatherings. The popular Louvre Museum in Paris was temporarily closed as a precautionary measure. France currently has only a few clusters with coronavirus. The ongoing outbreak remains a concern to the French tourism industry as coronavirus fears are resulting in a drop in visitors. The United Kingdom coronavirus cases surged significantly in the third and fourth weeks of March, making it one of the top 10 countries with coronavirus. Confirmed cases and the coronavirus in the UK surged to 5,741 on 23rd March 2021 and crossed 34,000 on 2nd of April 2021, while death toll increased to 2,900. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson also tested positive for coronavirus. But then, how was the situation around Nigeria? Nigeria was also hardly hit by the coronavirus too. From 16th to 18th of April 2022, 22 new confirmed cases were recorded in Nigeria till date. 255,670 cases have been confirmed. 249,879 cases have been discharged and 3,143 deaths has been recorded in 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. The 22 new cases are reported from 4 states: Lagos 10, Nasarawa 6, FCT 3, and Rivers State 3. Now, we will need to look at the impact of coronavirus around the world. COVID-19, short for the coronavirus disease 2019, has spread almost every country and territory around the world, infecting millions of people and devastating the global economy. Let's take a look at the economic growth of some countries amidst the COVID-19 outbreak. First, the United States. The US was able to briefly pull itself out of the pandemic-induced recession. While GDP dropped 3.4% in 2020, it was able to shoot up 5.7% in 2021. The highest growth rate since 1984, the US remained the richest country in the world with an overall GDP of $23 million. Second is China. Amid renewed COVID-19 outbreak in China and a global economic slowdown, the Chinese economy is increasingly facing headwinds. According to a median projection in April 2022, China's economic growth is likely to slow to 5.0% in 2022 amid renewed COVID-19 outbreaks and a weakening global recovery. The forecast growth for 2022 would be lower than 5.2% annualized, and the analysts said it in Twitter poll in January, suggesting the government faces an uphill battle in hitting the year's target of around 5.5%, and the growth is the forecast to pick up the 5.2% in 2023, and the rate of 2020 is just 0.3%. Third is EU. The European Union's first growing economy in 2021 was Ireland, with the country's gross domestic product growing by 13.7% that year. According to the most recent forecast in 2022, Croatia's economy was expected to have grown by 10.5%, within the Greek growing the third fastest at 8.5%. Lastly, we have Nigeria. Nigeria's economy recorded a surge in 2021 after the fall in experienced in 2020. The economy gradually picked up steam as it raised its nose over the abyss it fell into. This was pioneered by increased government spending as the GDP surged up in 2021 to positive figures, and it's projected that the economy will grow by 4.2% in 2022. The inflation rate in 2021 stated on a high note at 16.47%, increasing to 18.17% in March. After that, there was a steady decline in the inflation rate, 8 months ending the November at 15.5%. It, however, picked up in December, closing the year at 15.63%. How serious is the global impact of COVID-19? The COVID-19 pandemic has led to a dramatic loss of human life worldwide and present an unprecedented challenge to public health, food system, and the world of work. The economic and social disruption caused by the pandemic is devastating. Tens of millions of people at risk of falling into extreme poverty, while the number of undernourished people, currently estimated at nearly 690 million, could increase by up to 132 by the end of the year. Millions of enterprises face an existential threat. Nearly half of the world's 3.3 billion global workforce are at risk of losing their livelihood. Informal economy workers are particularly vulnerable because the majority lack social protection and access to quality health care and have lost access to productive assets. Without the means to earn an income during lockdown, many are unable to feed themselves and their families. For most, no income means no food, or at best, less food and less nutrition food. The pandemic has been affecting the entire food system and has laid bare its fragility. Border closure, trade restriction, and confinement measures have been preventing farmers from accessing markets, including for buying inputs, selling their products, and agricultural workers from harvesting crops, thus disrupting domestic and international food supply chains and reducing access to healthy, safe, and diverse diets. The pandemic has decimated jobs and placed millions of livelihoods at risk. As breadwinners lose jobs, fall ill and die, the food security and nutrition of millions of women and men are under threat, while those in low-income countries, particularly the most marginalized populations, which include small-scale farmers and indigenous people, being hard-set hit. How did the outbreak impact on global stock market, which is very, very important? Yes, it did, because the global stock market have also suffered dramatic falls due to the coronavirus outbreak. Although they were able to recover from the losses quite quickly, the Dow Jones reported its largest ever single-day loss of almost 3,000 points on March 16, 2020, beating its previous record of 2,300 points that was set only 4 days earlier. Its impact on industry, we need to look at that too. The economic damage caused by the COVID-19 pandemic is largely driven by a fall in demand, meaning there are less consumers willing to purchase the goods and services available in the global economy. This dynamic could be clearly seen in heavily affected industries such as travel and tourism. To slow the spread of the virus, countries have placed restrictions on travel, and many people could not purchase flights for holidays on business trips. This reduction in consumer demand was the reason why airlines lost planned revenue, and as a result, they had to cut their expenses by reducing the number of flights they operate. Impact on health and economy. We are looking at that aspect too. Of course, the health and economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic are well known. As of today, an estimated 100 million people have contracted the virus worldwide, and over 2.2 million died from the disease. According to the International Monetary Fund, the global economy shrunk by 3.5% last year. This represents the deepest global recession since the Second World War. However, What is today still considered by many as primarily a health and economic crisis may soon become a long-term development crisis. In this scenario, without assistance, low-income developing countries are the most vulnerable. They are already particularly vulnerable to external shocks, and they have limited resources and weak institutional capacity to support their economies in the face of a shock. Within these countries, rural communities are the most vulnerable as they are often not covered by economic safety nets, and their livelihood primarily depend on activities that have been significantly affected by the measures countries have implemented to contain the pandemic. Take for instance, remittance from migrant labor, production and sale of agricultural products. How did COVID-19 affect Nigeria? The pandemic affected many enterprises, which led to the closure and the laying off of employees. By the end of 2020, the country recorded an all-time high in unemployment rate. The country's unemployment rate increased from 27.11% in the second quarter of 2020 to 33.28% by the end of the year. The country started the year with an unemployment rate of 33.28%. The situation has pushed many into poverty. Nigeria moved from having 0.1% of its population going into poverty every second in 2020 to 3.3% in 2021. The country's population that is living below the poverty line moved from 39% in 2020 to 40% in 2021. More so, it is expected that this will continue to increase, pushing 11 million more people into poverty in 2020. Nigeria was among the first countries in sub-Saharan Africa to identify COVID-19 cases and has since implemented strict measures to contain the spread of the virus. At the same time, oil prices plummeted by 60% following the spread of the global pandemic. As the oil sector accounts for the bulk of Nigeria government revenue, this collapse in prices has profound implications for the economy. The federal government is confronted with the simultaneous challenge of combating the public health crisis of the pandemic alongside trying to bolster a weakening economy, given the mounting evidence that the social and economic impact of these twin crises are likely to be significant. The government is ramping up policy interventions that can help mitigate such negative impacts. Alleviating the impact of the COVID-19 crisis is vital for preventing poverty from deepening and increasing in Nigeria. Before the crisis, approximately 4 in 10 Nigerians were living below the national poverty line, and millions more were living just above the poverty line, making them vulnerable to falling back into poverty when shocks occur. To provide the government with timely evidence to guide the policy response, the Nigeria COVID-19 National Longitudinal Fund Survey has been initiated in Nigeria. The survey is being implemented by the National Bureau of Statistics with technical support from the World Bank, and it's designed to measure and monitor the economic and social impact of the COVID-19 crisis by tracking households' welfare behavior every month over a period of 12 months. The survey has a panel structure such that it follows a representative sample of Nigeria households to assess how key indicators that may underpin the overall policy responses are changing over time. What do you think about COVID-19 vaccine? Only half of Chinese aged 80 and older are fully vaccinated against COVID-19, highlighting a key vulnerability as the country grapples with its worst outbreak since Wuhan and the prospect of reopening the world. About 51% of over 80-year-olds have received 2 shots and some 20% have gotten boosters, health officials told reporters at a briefing in Beijing, while 87.9% of China's 1.4 billion people have been vaccinated with 2 shots, a high percentage globally. The numbers decline with age, with the figure dropping to 82% for those between 70 and 79. For countries and regions such as Singapore, Taiwan province, and Japan with a well-established hierarchical diagnosis and treatment system and abundant primary medical resources, fibrous oral medicine may be a very effective drug. For a country like China, where a tired diagnosis and treatment system is virtually non-existent, fibrous oral medicine is better than nothing. The United States donated 3.2 million doses of Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine to Nigeria. The U.S. mission in Nigeria said Mary Beth Leonard, U.S. ambassador to Nigeria, visited the National Strategic Warehouse. The latest shipment reflects the United States' commitment to purchase and donate 1.2 million COVID-19 vaccine doses worldwide. To date, the United States has delivered more than 370 million vaccine doses to over 110 countries. Nigeria, among other African countries, struggled to access COVID-19 vaccine earlier, unlike the wealthier nations, which had secured early deals and were given priority by manufacturers. Vaccines are the most critical tool to end the pandemic and to save lives and livelihood. Equitable access to safe and effective vaccine is crucial, and Africa must not be left behind. No one is safe until everyone is made safe by the vaccination. Government support and policies need to be talked about. The COVID-19 pandemic is not only a public health crisis but also a major policy crisis. Many countries have had vigorous debates about what government should do, whether or not lockdown should take place, to what extent privacy should be protected, and how to balance the trade-off between health and the economy. More research is needed to compare the effect of existing policies and improve decision-making. Despite the clear danger that the global economy is in, there are also reasons to be hopeful that this worst-case scenario can be avoided. Governments have learned from previous crises that the effect of a demand-driven recession can be countered with government spending. Consequently, many governments are increasing their provision of monetary welfare to citizens and ensuring businesses have access to funds needed to keep their staff employed through the pandemic. In addition, the specific nature of this crisis means that some sectors may benefit from it. E-commerce, food retail, IT, and the healthcare industries provide at least some economic growth to offset the damage. But China obviously does not have similar condition. In recent years, Chinese communities, hospitals, and township health centers have continued to shrink, and the trend of brain drain has not reversed. Even in Shanghai, one of the cities with the most abundant medical resources per capita, the outpatient volume of community health services has just exceeded 1/3 of the city's output volume. When there is no epidemic, ordinary people cannot be prevented from crowding into large hospitals. If an epidemic occurs, no one will go to the community clinics. Therefore, for China, learning from the experience and lessons of Wuhan and Shanghai, the most important public health shortcoming is not that the research and development costs of pharmaceutical companies are too low and there are too few original drugs, but the medical insurance is becoming more and more popular today. WHO therefore strongly recommend that Pfizer makes its pricing and deals more transparent and that it enlarged the geographical scope of its license with the medicines patent pool so that more generic manufacturers may start to produce the medicine and make it available faster and affordable prices. So what is Nigeria's way to COVID-19? Very, very important to talk about that. What is the measure put in place by the Nigerian government so far? Several measures have been instituted by the federal government of Nigeria through the PTF COVID-19 together with the Federal Ministry of Health to curtail the spread of the disease and protect the health of Nigerians. These include an initial lockdown of non-essential activities, closure of schools, a ban on international flights, etc. Nigeria is one of the many countries that have commenced the gradual easing of lockdown measures initially instituted at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. This is to ensure a balance between preserving lives and livelihoods while addressing the social-economic destruction caused by the outbreak. Further, to reviewing the response nationwide, and with the conclusion that Nigeria is not yet ready for a full reopening of the economy, the BTF COVID-19 announced the extension of phase 3 of the eased lockdown for a period of 4 weeks, effective from 19th of October 2020. This is in line with the amendment to address economic, social, political, and health considerations. Now, our view at Nigeria Today is this. We believe that Nigeria stands a better chance to attract sustainable local and foreign investment by committing to innovative decisions in the physical space. This has the potential to grow a lifetime of the economy through spending. Efficient tax administration through tax incentive can stimulate economic growth that is sustainable. This tax incentive must be set realistically, monitored, and effectively evaluated in order to stimulate growth. The federal government must review the current tax incentive policy and avoid granting incentive and waivers that undermine the tax base of the country. Such incentive should be fiscal tools aimed at offsetting challenges investors may face in investing in Nigeria. A blended approach to Nigeria's fiscal administration is also recommended. This blended approach acknowledges our local content and peculiarities within the current realities. This specifically targets business across the federal, state, and local governments, including startups and SMEs. It is important to manage this tax mix, strike a balance, and consider a tax relief to better manage the impact of COVID-19. The Nigerian government, through a well-articulated policy document, should create a short-term tax defer opportunity for businesses. The government should also consider writing off debt in some critical corporations to the economy by way of short-term equity participation. Please drop your comments in the comment section, your questions and suggestions below, as we will take them one after the other to analyze. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page, Nigeria Today. Thanks for staying with us. My name is Ramsey Ena.